So this is scheme design number 2. So the process map. First of all, deciding on what is the purpose of the coaching and mentoring that's going to go on in your organisation. That's very important, to be very clear about what is it for. And that needs to be positioned and thought through. So if it is for performance improvement, then think about the implications of what that might mean. If it is for diversity, if it is for induction, if it is for talent management, it is for leadership development. All those things are very clear purposes which need to be thought through. And try not to have more than one purpose when you first start. A question which follows on from the purpose question is, who is the coaching and mentoring actually for? Now, this needs to relate to your core purpose. So, for example, if it's about induction into the organisation, you will therefore need to think about who the people are that are being inducted and how often coaching and mentoring might be relevant for them. Depends on the size of your organisation, of course. If it's for talent management, how are you going to identify who are the talented, and what sort of form is the coaching and mentoring going to take? Who might be the appropriate mentors, etc. You also need to be very aware of who's supporting it. That's crucial, because what you really need is senior management support. You also need to think about what exists already within your organisation. So what is it that's going on currently in terms of things like talent management, leadership development, diversity programs, programs for women, programs for ethnic minorities, whatever it happens to be. Think about how coaching and mentoring might fit to assist this thing which already exists, rather than try to bring coaching and mentoring in as something which stands alone. Another key question is, what are the barriers to introducing coaching and mentoring? How aware are people in your organisation of coaching and mentoring practices? How aware or supportive are they of learning and development initiatives? Are they developmentally aware themselves? Who might be the key players, and how might they block what you're trying to do? Important to think those problems through. And following identifying the barriers, how will you manage them? This is a very important question and needs a lot of thought, because sometimes it's a good idea to not try to manage the barriers, but just to kind of ignore them and start where there is interest. So develop your implementation plan and have evaluation from the very start. Have some baseline indicators as to what is going on in terms of the coaching and mentoring, and therefore you can measure it and report back on it later, and also improve the scheme. So review the scheme regularly, celebrate the successes you have, and update the scheme in the light of your experience. Don't leave it to stay stagnant. And there are some common mistakes in scheme design. A very common one is poor planning. So the manager may not have gone through what we've just discussed, not gone through the process map. Perhaps there was a poor selection of coaches and mentors, or poor matching. And we'll talk about these things in later sessions, but thinking about how people are matched and put together is an important part of the process. Another thing that's very important is that coaches and mentors are very clear about what their role is. And a common mistake found in scheme design is that the role of the coach or the mentor is not clearly specified. There is a lack of role clarity. Also, something that's important is to remember that you can have too little or too much formality in the process. Think about the culture of your own organisation and what would seem to fit. Generally speaking, a fairly light touch management of the coaching and mentoring process is an important aspect, a light touch. And failure to set measures at the beginning. How will you know it's working is the key question which we ask a lot in coaching and mentoring. And you need to ask that question when you are designing and delivering a scheme. How will you know it's working? And another problem that often happens is people get overloaded. Your coaches and your mentors end up with far too many people to work with. Keep that small. Recommendation at the start is no more than 3 people per person in an internal scheme. And also it may be that they will feel they don't have enough time to coach or mentor, in which case you need to think about their workloads and think about how coaching and mentoring can be brought in as a legitimate part of what they do in the organization. Another point is that we can also expect far too much of the coaching and mentoring process itself, so don't overpromise. And another common mistake is no evaluation, which is related to how will you know it's working, or perhaps evaluation of the wrong type. And another crucial thing to understand is that both coaching and mentoring activity needs ongoing support and development. Your coaches and your mentors need to have time to develop their thinking, and they need support in that. And they may have questions that need to be asked and answered and addressed and thought through, and they may need further skills development. So that brings us to the end of part 2 of scheme design, and do look at the next video, part 3 of scheme design. I look forward to seeing you then.